Okay, so I know it's probably almost like a long dead subject at this point, but so Pokemon Go is just like it boomed like right when it first came out. It was really good. It was really popular, and I think this was mostly kind of riding on its concept. The People super psyched about like going out and buying Pokemon in the original trailers. I think Google helped with forever ago too, where they a lot of hype there, and you know the game did okay for a while just writing on that concept, but it kind of fell short really quickly, and those I think feel like mostly due to how poorly the game was developed, which a lot of people wouldn't really pay too much attention to. They're just like, oh yeah, I'm catching Pokemon, and then sooner or later you just won't be anymore because deep down the game's not developed very well. And I just thought it would be common sense that it wouldn't take very long for like devs take a look at this and be like, oh well, this makes sense and this doesn't make sense, and we have the funding to fix this because I mean, obviously with the a lot of the setup they have, there's gonna be tons of people just like forking over cash there at the beginning to fucking get Pokeballs or potions or lures or some shit like that. So I just I don't even know. I would have thought they would do some stuff about this, and like maybe it's not as common sense as I feel like a lot of this stuff is, but I think I know a really simple fix to make the game a million times better with very minimal work on the development side. I mean, there's some things that can be done there to make the game even better than that, which would actually require a little bit more like adding additional ideas and stuff, which would be a lot more work than like the simple change arounds that I'm mostly going to be talking about. But yeah, the game's just like plagued by like poor mechanics. Uh, the way they've set things up, trainer level equals Pokemon level because there's no Pokemon levels for real. So it just, the way things are set up is catering very strongly for a bot, for a player to come in and just set a application or create a script to just automatically do things for them. And I mean, players can't really be blamed for this because the developers have made it so accessible and so like to feel like you could do that. And like I've always felt like if you are playing a game and you can predict like 2 hours ahead of time what buttons and shit you should be pressing and what you should be doing, the game was developed poorly. And so botters can't really be blamed for doing that because I mean, are they really cheating at that point if they just know what actions they're going to have to commit hours ahead of time? No, the game's developed poorly, and so if it was done properly, they wouldn't be able to do that. They wouldn't be able to bot as easily. Of course, there would be some people out there that could make like circumstantial scripts that would work, but it'd be very difficult and would take out from the mass majority. Because I would say now, like I mean, like probably like I don't even know, like probably 25% of the players there at the beginning at least were bots, especially considering that like one player would probably be botting like 20 plus accounts. Like it probably is, I'm like lowballing it really hard there. Yeah, and I mean like it puts it down to the point where certain features of the game are really only accessible to bots. And like I mean I've bought the game before on my PC, but like like is some dude that's just like walking around playing the game the way that the developers intended for him are never gonna be able to like compete with a gym and shit, like because I mean like I'll fucking like I could pop into a town using a bot, set like 10 locations and just teleport between them with like Pokemon that I ran this fucking trainer going for like ever catching Pokemon and getting up to like level 20 without playing. So like, I mean, and see, like 20's not shit either. There's people that like seriously bot because I just dicked around. But I mean, like, there's people that'll seriously do that shit, and you'll see them with Pokemon with like 3,000 CP, and like somebody who actually plays the game normal way is not going to be able to compete with that ever, and they're never going to be able to touch a gym. So, I mean, it's like the game is catering towards people who are going to bot. Anyway, Another thing too is the with botting, it makes spawns very predictable. You can run a bunch of junk and basically not play the game and just basically like, get a notification when there's a Pokemon in a certain area. It takes most of the fun out of the game if the developers are gonna secure certain things like that. So the idea that I've thought of that would basically fix everything. I don't know why nobody's messed with this yet. Okay, I'm gonna say this, and most people immediately dismiss this shit because they'd be like, "No, you can't even use the game anymore if you do it that way." But just bear with me. You eliminate the navi screen, the map, the fucking bullshit you see, the whole time you fucking play the game. You eliminate that. You make it so you do not see it as a player, but the system will still be running it to kind of get the idea of where certain things are. But a player will not ever see the screen, and what a player will see instead is through their camera. We will force the game to be played through the camera at all times. Now, a lot of people, like, straight up on this will just be like, "Oh, this bullshit," like battery draining and this, that, and the other thing. Now, I really don't think that it'd be too big of a problem. Pokemon Go, even on the map application, already drained a bit of battery, and like people didn't really have a problem with that. People went out and bought battery packs and shit like that. Like, it wasn't really a big deal. Like, that's how much people wanted to play. And so you basically, if you ran through the camera the whole time, the battery consumption, I mean, if it's any worse, it wouldn't be too much worse than it already was, and it would make the game a million times more enjoyable and completely eliminate the possibility of any bots. There'd be no way. I mean, like, if you just made it to where the game won't even fucking load if you don't have a camera, then I mean, you can't bot that at all. Like, that, I can't think of any ideas really there for that. And even if you did, like, manage to make the game run as a bot, like, you wouldn't be able to see anything. It wouldn't work. So now there's a lot of other stuff there. People would be like, "Oh, how does this work? How does this work?" Everything would actually fall on really well. As far goes looking for Pokemon. So if you're playing through your camera and it was using the actual original map to like load in, where everything is at. So say there's like 3 Pokemon, okay, that you would have normally seen on your map, and you're playing through your camera of your phone. The one that is closest to you would be active, so that if you threw a Pokeball at him, you could catch him. The closer you got to the Pokemon, the more frequent his attacks that would repel the ball would be. So making it so you can just stand up in some Pokemon's face and just catch him, but also making it to where if you thought he was attacking too frequently, you could back away and make him attack less because you could get those longer throws. Once that Pokemon is no longer the closest Pokemon and another one is because you've walked closer to like another one, then that Pokemon will become the active Pokemon, and any Pokemon that are inactive will just like render as an image but aren't actually functioning. It would be pretty manageable this way. You wouldn't have to have more than one active on the screen at a time. Also, I mean, like, I wouldn't really be surprised if, they could even make more money off this. I mean, you could release, like, battery packs that look like fucking Pokeballs or something, and I'm sure people would probably buy a shit ton of them, and it wouldn't really matter having a camera open for, like, an hour or two at that point. With the Pokestops, I think it would be even better as well, instead of, like, fucking, I mean, people play in the car and shit all the time too. It's not great. You wouldn't really be able to do this anymore. If you were playing strictly through a camera, it wouldn't really be manageable. And I would probably also recommend that, the restrictions for like going over a certain speed limit were turned back on to just completely discourage people from trying to play at all while they were driving. It wouldn't be doable anyway, because it's not like you can click a Pokemon at that point and then be in a battle with him and then drive 5 miles away and still catch him, because the way it works active with the camera, you'd have to actually be there with him, and it would help immersion by a great deal to run through the camera the whole time like that, and it would also prevent a lot of that stupid shit like fucking driving in the car and shit like that. Pokestops, that's what I was saying. The Pokestops, like, you could see if it was running off of the map realistically, even though the player didn't see it, it would actually almost be better in a way because you could still leave the icon, like, placed where it's supposed to be as far as like the map is concerned, but you'd see it through your camera. So a couple ways you could do this is one, you could have it to where like, the icon would probably be like littered like on top of the building or around the building or something like that, pretty big that you could point your camera at. And when you saw it come into frame, you could touch it just like you normally would. Another possibility too, probably what would end up happening by default, in a lot of cases is it would be inside the building because if it because probably the biggest obstacle here of like calibrating all of this would be making it so, and that might already be there honestly, because if you've ever played this game through the AR mode or whatever, so you could see the real surroundings, like, the things are usually pretty leveled out, like, for the most part. So, like, the Pokestop icon very well could be in the building and you can't really access it unless you go inside or right around there. It makes things a lot cooler that way, I think, too. No more ridiculous spotting, right? The Another really cool thing about this that would be doable, and now this like would be more down onto like additional content type deals that I was talking about before. The following Pokemon for a player could be visible following that player to another player that's looking through their camera, which would make the game really cool. And I mean, I think that's very doable considering how like locationing for a lot of things work. Again, this would be more on the side of adding things, which would be more difficult than the major change I just talked about, which would be like implementing what you already have a certain way. But yeah, so like say you have a fucking Charizard as your buddy or whatever, your team Pokemon. If another person's playing the game and they're looking through their camera and they point their camera at you or me or whoever that Pokemon was following, then they would see the Charizard looming behind him. I think that'd be really cool. It would, like, instantly tell you who's playing Pokemon Go. Another optional type of deal you could do based off that. Again, additional content that's harder to do than, like, incorporating the things we talked about before. But you could even put, like, a button or something by these players, like, so you could, like, battle or trade or add to a friends list. And this is something that a lot of people probably complained about a lot. This pretty typical, like, obvious flaw in the game is the battle mechanics, and there's no trading, and like, and it's understandable because if they did them another way, things would be really broken in a way, but everything's already broken, so like, who gives a shit, you know what I mean? Like, I guess I understand, because like if a level 30 player took one of their Pokemon and traded it to, a level 5 player, would it scale down the CP, or like, and like, what if he did that with like a Gyarados? A level 5 player should have like no chance of being close to getting a Gyarados, So with a lot of this stuff, it can be, like, honestly be fixed without too much effort, especially with a new system with the camera and stuff like that. That's one thing though, that the Pokemon levels need to something needs to be done. They can't be based off the trainer. You can make certain things based off the trainer, but for all of your Pokemon's power to be based off of your trainer is ridiculous. Like, to have a Charmander that you start the game with, that you always have as your buddy or something, that you do every battle with or something like that, and then to like actually like have him for like, say you have him for like 6 months, and then fucking run into a Bellsprout and it's like, just randomly in the wild, and he's like, 3 or 4 times stronger than your Charmander because you have a higher trainer level. That doesn't make any sense. That's stupid. And with the battling, instead of it being screen mashing and special attacks, honestly would function so much nicer if it was done with like a 4-slot cooldown. Pokemon can learn up to 4 moves. Each of these moves have independent cooldowns based on the move. That would be way better. And also, if it was done that way, it would like introduce the possibility of like trainer battles without being fucking retarded. Also, would give people more of a chance with gym battles and stuff. Obviously, there'd be way more of a chance already present because botters wouldn't be completely running everything. Along with this, there should be a small adjustment to how Pokemon spawn because there's a really high chance that people could still like run off a lot of the data that they have already for the current spawn mapping of everything, like to figure things out. So I mean, that just needs to be like scrambled. Like it shouldn't be too hard to throw that completely off. And once it's running in this different way, it would be impossible for any botters to work with that at all. They would just have to play through an actual camera. Yeah, I mean, this would fix a lot of the stuff on here. So yeah, I hope that the game does stay in this like sort of deceased condition that it's in, and they work on it a little bit more. That'd be really cool. I mean, they have the funding too. That's like what I was saying. Crazy. Like, it honestly wouldn't cost that much money to take a small group of developers and have them achieve most of the stuff we were talking about here. It really wouldn't take that much in a grander scheme of things. Like, not even shitting you, probably like from one of their earlier days after release, probably like the profits from one of those days would like be way more money than they would need to get developers to actually like finish something like what we're talking about here. So I mean, let's hope it works out, right? Like, it'd be really cool. Like, I haven't touched the game since, like, I fucking bought the shit out of it and got to, like, 20-something and saw how broken everything was. I probably won't touch it again until some, like, drastic changes are made either. But, like, I don't know if most of these ideas have already been thought of or, what, but, like, I figured I would share them since it didn't really seem like anything was happening with all of that. And, like, I think that a lot of these ideas seem like just kind of common sense. Yep, all them Pokemon.